right, now that we are successfully connected to our database and we have proof here that we are connected successfully because it's went through and connected using the MySQL iConnect function, and we tested that connection and then it passed, so we're echoing connected successfully. We're good to go. Now we can actually access the content within, or the data rather, within our database. And so now I'm going to show you how to actually what is called select data from a MySQL database using PHP. So I'm just going to put a couple spaces here in the PHP script because that's what we're going to be working with. Whenever you want to get any of this data from a database and you're using PHP, you need to actually have it, all your requests be within PHP scripts. I'm assuming that would be obvious. So first what we need to do, this is the common convention. This is kind of the method in which you get access to the data within a database. So I'm not just creating this and just saying this is just one way of doing it. This is pretty common convention. If you were to look at other tutorials, whether it was text-based or video-based, or you took a class from a teacher somewhere, this is a pretty common way, if not the most kind of common convention of connecting to selecting the data from a database and storing it in a result. So let me just show you how this works. So I'm going to start out by saying query. A variable called query, and you can call this really whatever you want. You could call it SQL if you want, but it's pretty common to call it either a query or SQL because you're going to query the database, and that's what you do when you're trying to select data from a database. You perform a query, and you're going to store or assign an actual MySQL query in here, and this might look familiar to you. Select asterisk means all from users. This is a MySQL query. You might have recognized it from in your phpMyAdmin right here. So when I'm clicking on the users table and I go browse, it's performing a MySQL query on the database saying select all from users. So it's selecting all of the results or all the rows in this table. So select is a MySQL query. It's a keyword. This is all, it could be a specific column name. So username could be email. So you're actually saying all in this case, because we just want to get access to everything. And users, that's the table name. Now we need to store the result of that query in a variable. And that is going to look like this. MySQL I underscore query, and you're going to pass in a couple parameters here, a couple arguments. Con for connection. Remember back here, we had the variable here. So we're going to connect to the database right there. That's the first argument you pass in, and then your query. So you're connecting to the database and then submitting your query in this function, and it's going to store the result in this variable. So now what we need to do, before we just go ahead and just display that data, we need to check to see if there are any results being returned to us. So an if statement, inside your if statement parentheses here, you're going to go MySQL I underscore num underscore rows. This is going to check to see this is a function that checks to see the number of rows that are being returned. And then result is the variable, so it's going to test it against the result variable, is greater than 0. This basically means if the number of rows being returned in this query is greater than 0, then we have data. So in here, we have data. Now let's output the data. Okay, and now what we're going to do is a while loop. Remember those? While. So the while loop will look like this. That's the structure. And in here is where we're going to do a little bit more MySQL. So we're going to store in a row variable, and you can call this whatever, but row is pretty common because the data that is stored in a database are in rows. And we're trying to use the same language here so that it's not confusing. So we're just trying to use a common convention of language so it's not confusing for yourself in the future or for other developers working on your stuff. But again, it's a variable. You can call it really whatever you want. MySQL I underscore fetch underscore ASSOC. This is the way that you fetch the result. So you're fetching the associative array is what this essentially is. And so you're going to pass in the result as an argument. So result we have up here. And so we're going to pass that in. And now in our while loop, so while you're looping through this associative array, we're going to echo. And we're going to select row. Remember, we have an associative array, so this is how you get the data from it. So now we have access to those column names. So ID, username, password, email, sign up date, biography. We have access to those now. And they are going to be stored within the key of the associative array. So those column names are the keys in the associative array. So now you just have to do something like ID. And I'm just going to concatenate a space in here so that we can actually see. I'm gonna select row and then username. And then I'm going to concatenate a space again. And then same deal, row, and I'm just going to select one more, email. And then I'm just going to concatenate a break tag to break each line on its new, each result on a new line. So save that. Now, before we go ahead and check, we need to have a fallback if the if statement returns no results. So else, this simply just means did it return a number greater than 0? If not, then we need to just echo something like, whoops, no results. And now it's pretty common convention to also close your MySQL connection for security purposes and for efficiency when you're done with your work. And typically when the script closes, it closes automatically. But just to be sure, you could just do something like this. MySQLi underscore close, and then close the con variable, which is connection. Save that. So now we just officially closed that connection, which means we can't go ahead and query something down here. We have to open up the connection again by basically doing what we already did up here. So save that and let's see what happens. Here we go. So a little messy. I'm just going to remove connected successfully before we do that. So comment that out, save in your connection.php. Now let's see. 3 Brad Hussey, my@email.com. 4 John Snow, john@thewatch.com. So we've officially pulled data out of our MySQL database. Congratulations. But it doesn't look very good right now. And don't worry, we are web designers and good web developers here. We can make this look nice. So why don't we just take one step further and output the data of each of these rows in an HTML table. I know tables aren't sexy, but this is tabular data. So why don't we go ahead and do that? What you want to do here is echo. We're just going to echo a HTML table tag. And we're also going to, within that same line, echo table row. Within the table row, we're going to have a couple table headings. So th. And the first one will be ID. Right after that th. Bear with me here. I know this is messy. And it will get better. Don't worry. This is just to give you the idea. Username. And then one more th. Make sure you're getting this right. Email. Okay. So we have that echo. Let's echo after this a closing table tag. And then now what we need to do in here is just a little messy, but just hang tight. We're going to open up a string there, table row. After that table row, an opening TD tag. And then concatenate that. So a dot after the string. And then so we've concatenated it there. We need to close this TD tag after this entry. So right here in this string, we're going to close that TD tag, and then we're going to open another one because we have another entry right here. But again, we need to close that TD tag. So close the TD tag, open another one because there is one more entry right here, email. And where the break tag is, remove that, close the TD tag, and close the table row. Save. So basically, with each associative array result that is in this row variable, it's going to echo its own table row with the data. And then it will keep doing that for as many rows as there are. And then you're closing the table tag. Save that and let's see what happens. Looks like we have a little bit of a problem here. Everything disappeared. And it's probably something silly. Let's have a quick look here. Right there. Closing semicolon. Ending semicolon. I forgot to add it there. That's a big mistake. Now check it. There it is, ID, username, email. So that little mistake that I made there, you could see how even just a closing semicolon will screw everything up. PHP is really, really picky, and it's not very accommodating like HTML, where it might just, figure it out for you. PHP is unapologetically strict. So you're going to have to learn that the hard way, unfortunately. So there's the table. Now, what if we wanted to make it look just a little bit nicer? Because the table, again, doesn't have any styles, doesn't look that good. Well, we have pretty easy access to Bootstrap from what I can recall. All you really need to do is open up a file from your PHP section and just copy your Bootstrap stuff. So all this stuff right here, I'm going to copy the doc type. Well, I'm just going to copy everything from just say loops.php, and I'm just going to go to my index, and just at the very bottom here, I'm going to paste everything, and then I'm going to clean everything up. So let's remove this top PHP script. I'm going to change the title to just something static, MySQL, and we're connecting by the CDN, so we don't need any local files here. Just going to change this to MySQL select, and then remove this PHP tag. We don't need that, or script rather, and we're looking pretty good. So what we need to do now is we want to display this stuff down in our HTML. And so how do we do that? Well, let's go ahead and grab everything from MySQLi close up to the if statement and cut that using Command X if you're on a Mac, or Control X, I think, on PC, and save. So now we have the variables here, and we just need to scroll down to where we are here, and let's paste, let's open up a PHP script and paste our MySQL and PHP in there. I'm going to tab this in, and now we should actually have this in a table. But before we do that, I'm going to give this table a class of table and table-bordered Bootstrap classes. This should make it look nicer. Let's see. There it is, MySQL select, and we have our table of data, and it looks much better, and hey, it's responsive. How cool is that? So that is how you select some basic data from your database. If you wanted to select just one thing, so up here, we selected all, you could select just username or email or bio. But I wanted to select all so we could pull it in down here. Don't worry, we got a lot more of this stuff coming up. I just wanted to give you a little intro there. So hang tight, see you in the next lecture.